So previously we looked at plotting data using the built-in plot types for Scala FX, which are Java FX plots. We used a scatter chart for plotting out our temperature data, and so it's a type of an XY chart or scatter chart here. I talked about limitations of both SwiftVis and the built-in chart types, and at least I'm not perfectly happy with either one of them. So I used to have a plotting package that I maintained called SwiftVis. The problem with SwiftVis is it only reads in files and plots them. It works nicely if that's what you want to do, but we really need a programmatic interface. We don't want to have to take our data, save it off in some format, and bring up a different program. So I'm actually working on a revised version of this called SwiftVis2. Now, this is not stable. It does not have a Maven repository. Those are the primary downsides of it. But my goal is to try to make something where it is fairly easy to do plots. I am actually going to use this SwiftVis2 for my plotting in here. You can use whatever package you want. If you want to go to Java things, there's things like JFreeChart. It really doesn't matter. Right now there is no de facto standard for the Scala environment. It'll take time for things to become settled down, and then inevitably something will become the de facto probably within the next few years, but it's unclear what that will be. Because I'm working on SwiftVis and because I am trying to make it do basically everything that I like to do for my own plotting, this is what I am going to play with. Now, because there's not a Maven repository for this, you have to do a little bit more work. Now, it's worth noting here, so my build.sbt, I do have Scala FX in here, along with all of the Spark stuff that we haven't started using yet. This allowed me to make that Scala FX plot. SwiftVis2 sits on top of Scala FX, so I still keep that there. Since it doesn't have a Maven repository, what I have done is I have created a directory called lib in here. SBT will look in that directory, in the lib directory, and look for any jar files that are there and add them to your build path. So if you were to clone the SwiftVis2 and do a compile and a package, it will create a jar file that then you can put inside of here. I understand this is a fair bit more work than using either of the others which have Maven repositories, so once again, you can use whatever you want. In some ways it really doesn't matter how you decide you want to make your plots, just that you can plot them and that you can look at the data in the way that you want. So, I had this code here. What I'm actually going to do is I am going to comment out the stage, and in order to build the plot that I want here, there are basically, I need to create a plot, I'll call it plot, that is going to be a new scatter chart. And there's actually a lot of inner details of SwiftVis2 that I'm not going to talk about here, about how you can make grids of plots and whatnot, but I've added a facade so that I can just say plot dot scatter plot, and I import that plot, and so you can see that this is a SwiftVis2 plotting plot. And what I have to pass into this is a collection of the x values, a collection of the y values, and then labels for the plot and whatnot. Some of these have default values, and so I could actually go with that. So let's say I want to have our data.map to the day of year and data.map to the Tmax. And currently, okay, so let's go ahead and add a title there, and we'll add an X label, day of year. We could do these with named arguments because Scala allows that. uh, oh, in order for these to nicely convert over, I have some implicit conversions. SwiftVis2 dot plotting. They're located in the package object. And so I would expect those to make things happy. My Eclipse is acting up a little bit, in which case I am going to come over to SVT. This is a good general tool in case your IDE is unhappy and you're not certain you believe it's the errors that it's giving you. I should probably, between videos, just shut down my Eclipse and start it back up. But you can go to SVT. Nope, it is actually happy. Oh, that's because I'm missing an underscore dot there. That was a real error. Yeah, but as you can see, SVT is like, no, we're happy, and Eclipse says, I don't like something here. In that situation, SVT is right. So the other thing that I need to do, now that I have a plot, is I need to render it. And so there is a renderer that renders to Scala FX, and I could just stop, let's see, import that. Just giving it the plot will work. That will actually create, I think by default, 1000 by 1000 window, which is bigger than what we can show here. So to match kind of what we had with our Java FX one, I will set it to be 500 by 500. We run it. It should load in the data file and produce a plot that looks like this. Okay. One other thing that's happening here is a little blank window is popping up. That's because I didn't create a stage. That is, you can decide how much you care about that. One thing that is nice is I can make another plot and call FX renderer, and another plot and call FX renderer, and they will all come up in little windows like this. Okay, so this is just another option for plotting. I will say one of the things that I really like to do in plots that I can't do with Scala FX, and maybe I should come back and make another video on this in just a second, I like to color my dots kind of with a gradient. So it might be interesting to color these dots based upon the precipitation. Okay, that would be a nice thing to be able to do. I do not know of a way in Scala FX with their plots to make that happen. So if you want that type of functionality, then that's part of why I will be using the SwiftVis2, even though it's definitely still under construction. It does have some types of functionality that I just really like to have in my plotting, and some of these other tools don't support them.